a while back, I thought to myself, I'd like to create a DJ mix. Only problem is, I don't know how to use DJ hardware or software, but I do know how to use FL Studio. How hard can it be? I'll Google it. Well, from memory, it was actually relatively difficult to determine just what steps to take. I remember getting bits and pieces from Reddit and some YouTube videos and having to kind of figure it out on my own. So now that I have figured it out and I've got a pretty good understanding of how to do so, I thought I'd share. So this is how to create a DJ mix in FL Studio, specifically using a plugin called Transmutator. Now you can use stock plugins like parametric EQ2 and automating high pass and low pass filters, etc. But I'm not going to be going into that today. I'm going to be specifically using Transmutator. And so here it is. It's on Plugin Boutique. Boutique, it's the one. At the moment for $28, which is pretty damn good. I think I paid closer to about 75. What it's the list price is. But look, it's not necessary, but it makes it a hell of a lot easier, and I don't regret buying it. I think it's a great purchase. So anyway, moving on to how to do so. So let's assume that you have very little experience mixing at all, just like me. And I still don't have a hell of a lot. It's limited to this modality of doing so. But the first step I would say is determining the key and the BPM of each track that you're going to use. And so when it comes to mixing, they're using a system called the Camelot wheel or open key notation. And so that looks like this. Let's have a look here. Here we go. So if we go down here to the classic C major, so in the Camelot system, that's referred to as 8B. So 8 for the letter, and then B indicating that it's major. But in open key, which is what I've been using now, it's 1D, and then the opposing minor is 1M or 8A, and that goes round. And so in music theory, the neighboring key from C major, or the next one up, is G major, which includes an F sharp, as opposed to no sharps or flats, and that keeps going around. So essentially, all of these keys neighboring one another, they're either the exact same harmonic information, or very, very similar. And the idea being that we want to, let's say we start with C major, you want to keep it as close as possible to the next track, that is, to the original. So ideally you'd go to F major, G major, or A minor. Now that's not to say that you can't go from, say, C major to D major, or even A major, or even over to F sharp major. Is it less likely to sound harmonically pleasing? Yeah. I would say it's less likely, not impossible. It depends on what information really exists during the transition. It could be a lot of percussion. It's not impossible. Ultimately, use your ear. That's what I hear over and over again, and in my experience, it does hold up. So anyway, how to get this information? So when you download tracks on Beatport, they do offer it up, and there's websites that have all this information available. But in my experience, it is not very accurate. And it wasn't until I started using Tractor. Now this is a demo version, so you can download this for free, and it gives us the option to determine the information, and that's all we need. So it wasn't until I started using this that I realized, the mixes I was making beforehand, they're fine, they sound okay. I was using my ear, ultimately, so it was okay, but it was a bit of an eye-opener as to how inaccurate some of these other avenues are. So aside from this, there's some software called Mixed In Key, I believe, but that's paid. So I recommend Tractor. So in the browser, find your music, load it in, and then just bring it over to deck A or deck B, and that's going to bring up, once it's analyzed, the information over here. So the BPM is 124 for Fieldly Wondering, and the key is 10M, which if we go back to here, that is, what is that over here? What is 10M? Give me my eyes, please. There we go, C minor. All right, so once we've got that, I'll typically type that information into the file name just at the start, so that way when I come into FL Studio and bring in the music, you see how with this first track here, it's got 1M, 128. So now I know the key and the BPM. Straight off the bat, I can load in 10 tracks, and they're going to be in order as well. Not that I have to stick to that order, but it's very handy. So anyway, on to the technical process. That's the one. So we've got 3 tracks here to work with. We'll start with 2. I'm just going to drag in the first 2 here. So first things first, we're going to double click on the first track and change the mode to stretch. Now, as far as I know, this simply allows us to change the tempo of the track without altering the frequency. So we click off that one, and we right click in the corner here, fit to tempo, and then type in BPM. And the BPM we're typing in is the BPM of the track itself. So in this case, it's 128. So repeat that process for the next track, mode, stretch, and then we're gonna fit to tempo, type in the BPM, 127. Cool, so we're moving down 1 BPM. That's a pretty good place to start. All right, next thing we're gonna do, zoom in, and we're just gonna fiddle around to get the first kick in line with the first bar. So zoom in as much as we can. Now sometimes you see how it's kind of right on it there. I'm going to bring it just to the right. Anywhere that's neighboring here is going to sound pretty good. It doesn't have to be spot on, but as close as you can get. As long as it's not back here, you'll be good. Alrighty, so we're going to repeat that for the next track over here. Let's have a look here. I think this one's pretty good. A bit off here. Oh, by the way, I'm doing this by holding Alt on the keyboard and then pulling it across. So if I pull it across without holding Alt, wait, it is working. All right, forgive me. Maybe hold Alt anyway, But I'm assuming you have enough experience with FL to be able to do that. But just in case, fiddle around with Shift, Alt, Control, go for it. Okay. So let's bring this over here. So from here, I'm just going to bring a track up here. We're going to need to make sure that the project begins at the right tempo. So we've got 128. It's currently in 130. What we're going to do is bring it down to 128 and just highlight the first few bars. Right click on the tempo and then create automation clip. And so that is going to bring a little clip down here, automation, for the tempo. That's just 128 to 128, and that's going to sit at the start. So that way, when we play through, it's set at 128, we click off, we come back, it stays at 128. Because I've had instances where I don't set it at the start, I go and fiddle around, I click back, and then the project is reset to 130 or 140, whatever it was beforehand. Okay. So, next thing, the transition itself. So, I know with these 2 tracks, I'm going to want to transition across these 16 bars here. This is a bit of a creative process as you go along, Not every track is going to have a very uniform outro. There's going to be different ways and different lengths to transition. That's something to figure out as you go along. And one of the more fun parts of this process. But for today's demonstration, we're going to stick to 16 bars, nice and easy. So the BPM is first. So we're going to highlight these 16 bars. And then once again, create automation clip from the tempo. So this is going from 128 to 128, but we want 127. So we're going to bring this down to 127, copy the value, and then paste it over this end. So now, when this plays through, it's going to perfectly transition from 128 down to 127. I think one of the pros or the benefits of making a set or a mix in this manner, a con is it's a bit tedious, but a pro is it's precise. It's very precise, which I enjoy. I'm a bit of a perfectionist like that. Okie dokie, so that's sorted out. So with these two tracks having their tempo linked to the project, when we shift the BPM in the project, they're all gonna glue together. They're not gonna start diverging in any way. So that's why we do that. All right. Next thing, we're going to bring up the channel rack. That's F6, and we're going to go into all, and we're going to assign these tracks to a channel each. And so the first one, second 2, and we'll bring in the third. So we'll look here. So 1, 2, 3. So then we're going to bring up the mixer, F9, and click on channel 2. Come down to channel 1 here. Don't click on it just yet, but then right click and then side chain to this track only. So then when you're go to track 1 and then go into the effect slots and bring up an instance of Transmutator. Where are you? There you are. Okay, here it is. So first things first, we go to settings, just here, and then in processing, we right click on the sidechain and you'll see insert to, just what we've assigned. Perfect. So we take that. All right. So here are what are they called? The modes. You've got filter and then all these other names here. Dynamics is quite nice. The rest I haven't played with too much or don't enjoy that much. I mean, subjective, of course. But look, filter's hard to beat. It's classic. It goes from low pass to high pass. So A is the track that is the current, like the plugin is assigned to. So it's channel 1, and then B is the sidechain information. So essentially what's going to happen is we're going to automate from A to B, and so it's going to slowly high pass out A and low pass in B, and that's with the original settings. So you can invert that by clicking this button here, and it'll switch direction essentially. So low passing to high pass, but we're going to do the original. So bring the dial all the way over to A, and then right click, create automation clip. So now back in the playlist, we've got this big automation clip just in the middle here. Now we're going to zoom in where we want to transition, and right click down the bottom, and over here right click at the top, and then just at the very end bring that up. Okie dokie. So let's give that a listen. I'll do it actually. I'll play through a bit with just the original, the first track, and then just the second, to give you an idea of what's happening. Let's have a look here. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. You can see what's happening there. So let's play the two together and see how that sounds. Pretty good, right? It's hard to beat. It's a classic transition. I use it all the damn time and I love it. Now, what I might do with some instances is I might not want in the last bar to have any sort of faint high-end information that's trailing off, just for that last little break before the drop. So I might bring the automation back just to here. So that way, when you get that last little bit, it's just the next track. Just teasing what's coming up just a little bit. But, you know, for now, we'll just keep it there. Okay, so that's the bare bones of it. If you're going to move on to the next track, which you would bring up the... let's have a look. No. First, we're going to bring in the third track. All right. Now, once again, we double-click, stretch over here to fit to tempo. And then, what is this one? This is 124. Oop, there we go. Okay, now that is just right on the beat as it is. Perfect. Okay, now with this one, where have we got 16 bars? There we go. Now I know with this one, the first 16 they're a bit lackluster. They're a bit whatever, you know, just kind of percussion from memory. So we're going to bring it up another 16. And you can see here from the waveform, this is when it really, the party starts about there. So then we're going to highlight these bars, right click tempo, create automation clip. This is 127 to 127, so we want 124. Where is it? Copy value and then paste it down this end. There we go. All right, so that's the BPM taken care of. We need Transmutator again, so bring up the mixer. And then on track 3, which is the new track, we're going to right click on channel 2, pardon me, and then side chain to this track only. Now, you could just load up Transmutator again and go through the whole process, but I find it's a bit easier to click on the original and then save preset as and drag it across. Now, what that's going to do is it's got the sidechain information already loaded in, and that's going to apply to the next track 3. So just a bit easier, you know, having to go through that process every time can get a bit tedious, and that's the last thing you need with this tedious process. More tedium, no thanks. Okay, so once again, bring the dial all the way back to the left. We're keeping it on the original filter, low to high, or high to low, and then right click, create automation clip, bring down, come back over here. All right, so we're going to start it here, end it here, bring up the end. Now there is a bit of a oh, pardon me, just knocked the mic there. There is, as you can see, information, or like the waveform begins down here. But as long as the automation is brought all the way down, essentially no information is coming through. It's just the second track coming through, and then as this begins to come up, the information comes in. So no worries there. So I believe that's it. Let's give that a listen, see how that sounds. Isn't Progressive House just sick? Love it. All right. Well, look, that's pretty much it. And then you just continue that process indefinitely for how many tracks you'd want. Now, one thing to mention also is, in my experience, you'll have all sorts of, how would I phrase it? Like, you're going to have clipping here and there, and different tracks are going to be mastered and mixed to different levels, just slightly, and so you might need to finesse the DB, the gain, but don't do so through the mixer right here, because essentially if you bring down 2, that is going to bring down the sidechain information going into 1, which is then going to alter 1, and so on. It's a logarithmic nightmare. So instead, go up to the channel rack, and if you're going to alter the gain or the volume, do so here, and that isn't going to impact any other neighboring tracks. You know, a little bit more finicky, but a hell of a lot easier in the long run. But ultimately, you know, isn't totally necessary. You know, like the volume doesn't vary too much, but you know, if you need to, that's how you do so. Anyway, look, I may have left something out, but I don't want to waffle on any longer, so I'll keep it there. I hope that was helpful. And look, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I hope your week is spectacular. Alright, ciao for now.